What is the worst NSFW thing you did in your teens? Was about to have sex for the first time. Girl's mom walked in just before. While we were completely naked. Scared me really ducking bad. Few months later trying again to have my first time but am now super paranoid. She was blowing me in her basement and the water heater turned on. Scared me so bad I went soft in her mouth. I got a hand job in the backseat of a car. During the day, me sitting directly behind the driver, with nothing covering my D, with the girl's mom driving. My best friend was a peeping Tom. He told me about our very hot neighborhood girl who was a high school cheerleader and that she undresses without pulling her shades. I didn't believe him. So he challenged me to come with him one day. We climbed about 3/4 up on a 50-foot tree in the back of her house and waited. Sure enough the lights come on and there she is in her magnificent nakedness. In fact for months after that day, I still feel guilty about it decades later. Skipped class to have a drink. Pocket flask were in as a joke. Drinking age 16 here, and backyard session with my GF at the time. Everybody in class. So empty halls. Right? My teacher came out to grab something in the office and saw me with my hands under the GF's shirt and that stupid silver flask. Teacher only rolled eyes and said, living the good life. Me and a friend jerked each other off in exchange for seeing a girl naked during a game of truth or dare. I regret nothing. When I was 17, at the farm I worked at, I drove a John Deere tractor straight down a steep hill at full speed. I'm lucky to be walking right now. That was very NSFW. I was 17 and at the time I was working at a store in the mall. A friend of mine asked me for a ride to the mall and I semi-jokingly said sure, but only if I can get some head or something along those lines. To my surprise she said yes. I picked her up and we arrived at the mall and I'm still expecting her to back out at this point. She then tells me to get in the backseat and she goes to work on me. This is mid-afternoon in a busy mall parking lot by the way. The act itself wasn't amazing but I still managed to finish. The thing is, she pulled her mouth off right away and I shot my load all over my work clothes. Bear in mind that my work uniform was all black. Not a fun day at work after that. Hopefully this gets buried at the bottom. Last semester of high school, my friends and I were goofing around, ready to graduate and off to uni. Not a care in the world. I excused myself to use the restroom and my best mate dared me to go into a stall and to try and pee over into the next stall's toilet. Basically, point my gun upwards and pee into the adjacent stall. Since it was only a few days till we left the school for good, I decided duck it. Why not? Unfortunately, when I went into my stall, I forgot to check and see if anyone was in the stall beside me and of course, my D friends didn't remind me, so I pointed upwards, about 65-70 degree angle, and let her rip. Next thing I know, I hear a kid screaming at the sudden Niagara Falls of piss coming down on him and this is according to my friends, ducking bolts out of the stall, pants around ankles, pee dripping all over. Thankfully I never saw his face nor did he see mine. Had sex with 2 men at the same time at age 16. They were in their 30s and the whole thing was recorded. You know when you look back on things and say wow, I was a stupid kid. I don't have the tape. That's probably my worst mistake ever, not getting that tape. But the sex was absolutely mind-blowing. Then my mom found out and threatened to put them in jail. Awkward, right? Edit. Okay, so obligatory RIP. My inbox is dead. It was entertaining reading all of your comments, PMs, especially the needless hate and shame. It is a thread about the worst NSFW thing you've ever done. You folks realize that, right? Ah well. Edit 2. Feeling the love now. Thanks to everyone who had something positive to say. I really didn't expect this to blow up like it did. TL. DR read the last sentence. New Year's Eve 2013. I was 17 at the time and had been talking to this girl for months. She had the type of parents that would more than gladly let me stay the night. But after this night I never wanted to again. Still did though. DM. HS. So the day starts and I have my mom drive me to her and I's meeting place. Mom was convinced I was going to a small party with friends. Little did she know the party was in my pants and not small at all. Meet the girl. walk back to her place, and I give her chocolates. About 10 minutes later I was getting and about to finish my first blowjob. Now being the classy lady she was on this first date, she didn't swallow and instead pointed my D so I would come all over the bedsheets. And I did. And then I learned we were actually in her sister's, a friend of mine from middle school's, bedroom. But wait, there's more. So her and I drink and give each other handies all day. Once the clock hits midnight I make a fool out of myself. My phone said midnight. I yelled Happy New Year and took a shot. The clock people were watching said 11:58. Everyone stared at me. So after that, the magic happens. We get left alone. And she takes what innocence I had left and not shot on the bed sheets. And then she did it again. After round 2 we went to sleep in the wet spot. We woke up around 8 AM. Went to the gas station. Got drinks and a single condom which was all I could afford. Went back to her place and banged again. Then slept. And for the grand finale, we woke up, hungover, tired, and smelly, but I still had morning wood and this kind lady obliged. Lights off BTW. This is important. Once again she just aimed me onto the bedsheet. I pull up my shorts and she gets dressed. We go downstairs to find her dad and uncle watching TV. We had to go around it and walk between them. The whole time they both gave me a look that said they wanted to end my life. I go into the hall. My girl following me the whole time, and see her mom and brother, who do the same as her dad and uncle, just gave me a terrifying look. Walk into the dining room with her sister and sister's friend who saw me and laughed. Then my girl looked at me, pointed down, and laughed. And that is when I realized I walked by this girl's family with a ping pong ball sized glob of cum on my shirt. I ducked a chicken pot pie. Had sex in my city's mayor's RV. We didn't know it was his RV until he showed up one day to do some repairs while I was balls deep. Edit. The mayor lives on the same street as I do and I ended up marrying the girl I was caught with some years later. Now from time to time we see his RV parked on the street and can't help but laugh. Even though we both really want to have a go in it again. Foursome. 2 guys 2 girls, when I was 15. Totally unexpected. And girl action too. Next day I went to church and thanked God. And I'm not even religious. I just wanted to say thanks to the higher power that put me on this earth. I played video games that were rated M when I was 15. Pretty wild. I know. Edit. Till games are not rated R. SRYM8S that I'm stupid. My ex used to work at a photography studio. She'd be there alone a lot so I'd come to visit. We'd have sex in the room where they'd take everyone's pictures and stuff. Felt like I was in a porno shoot. Everything was draped and white. I was 16 and in 6 with a 45-year-old woman. She was the kinkiest and best I've had to date. This includes my wife sadly. In a single night, we may have taken some hard drugs, wrote a girl's entire next album and had a threesome while listening to a Simon and Garfunkel album. Nothing extreme. Rubbed one out in a public pool when no one was around at night. I didn't realize there were cameras till after I finished. Never heard from the building manager and I still live there. The dog. The peanut butter. The regrets. Edit. Duck. Like I really wanted my top rated comment to be this. Thanks guys. Friend and I peeped on his girlfriend because his friends didn't believe they were dating. Not sure how peeping proved anything, but it worked. At 16, had sex with the preacher's son, at the center of the Christian college. I didn't even know him very well, or go to church as much as he did. We just snuck out of our own houses and he took me there. It was awesome. Ducked a chick while 2 of our friends, a couple, were in the bed watching a movie with us. They didn't care. They then later had sex with me in the room a couple weeks later when I was hanging out at the guy's place and she stopped around. Pretty tame I guess, but OHH well. Wore sneakers instead of approved no-slip safety shoes in a slippery work environment. Me and my ex were walking down by the docks of boats in a state park on Long Island. We were both in high school, aka young and horny, so we hopped onto a random stranger's boat and started fooling around. Ended up with her riding me while I was sitting in the captain's chair. Bent her over while she was grabbing the steering wheel. Went on for a bit, then decided to come across the control panel. straightened ourselves up, and continued on our lovely afternoon stroll. GF gave me a BJ with my parents in the front seat. We put a coat over her head. She was napping. It happened when I was 18 years old. My smoking hot step-aunt is only a few years older than I am. She was like 22 or 23 when I was 18. She was a party animal and I was one too. We would often go drink with her friends and my friends together. Hit the club every weekend, sometimes twice a week, get ducking hammered every time. I knew she was the typical wild girl. She got drunk a few times in the club and we often make out with each other. I know it's ducking weird. I used to stay at her place when we go clubbing cause I don't wanna bother my parents like at 5 AM in the morning, plus that they didn't know I went clubbing. All I said I was sleeping over at her house to play games with her brother. Okay, so one day, we got back pretty early around 3 AM. Both us were a little tipsy but were totally fine. I entered her bathroom in her room, accidentally leaving the door unlocked and proceeded to jack off. She suddenly walked in, and I was shocked. Then out of the blue, they grabbed my hand, pulled me and gave me a kiss. After a good makeout session, we had sex. Daily sex in the school chapel, or handjobs blowjobs in the library. My neighbor was a huge itch to my mom, so a couple of friends and I broke into her house, upper decked her toilet, and poured laxatives in their apple cider. We filmed it then destroyed the film when we got older. When I found out my girlfriend cheated on me when I was 17, I was devastated. Went to University of Illinois with some friends to party and get my mind off of her. Met her best friend there who heard about what had happened, and after a couple bars and a lot of drinks, I ended up having sex with her and her Asian roommate. Safe to say, I felt a lot better after that weekend. First hand job in the back of a church van filled with boys. This is when I discovered I was gay. Lost my virginity when I was 13 to a 16-year-old in Monte Carlo. I still don't know if I regret it or not. I masturbated on camera to strangers on the internet. Whoa, this thread made me realize I am boring. Lost my virginity to a girl in a relationship in her best friend's bed. The best friend had liked me for quite some time, then later had sex with the best friend in the same bed, and all I could think was, this looks familiar. Stuck a troll's head up my ass. I'm still in my teens. You guys have given me a lot to live up to. Well, nobody else did, so now I have to be that guy. I'm sorry, there is a 12-year-old in me that just can't resist, and I have never got to post this before. So here goes. Art's mom ducked a married woman at age 16 while her child was next door. Masturbated while riding a bike down a country lane. Full daylight. Had to be careful of the occasional car. Ran off with some strangers during bike week when I was 17. Did a ton of drugs. Drank gallons of booze. And ended up sleeping with two of the strangers in a flea motel. Time of my life. I've got a lot of crazy six and damn it to do in the next 3 months before I turn 20 to catch up with you animals. My ex-girlfriend was a grade level above me, and she was cheerleader on the school cheer team. I was a wrestler and I knew when my coach would be out of our wrestling room. On some random Tuesday or something we were just sexually texting in class, and the only thing I could think of was ducking her brains out on game day, the day she would wear her uniform to school. We decided to both use the hall pass during third period and go into the vacant wrestling room. The only light on was the emergency light that shined directly on the center of the mat. We didn't know if we would actually do it, but I have a weakness for cheerleaders, especially in uniform. We ducked for a whole 3 minutes until I bust a nut out of either excitement, due to the fact that I practice in this room and we're at school like what the duck, or that I was scared of getting caught so I had to speed things up. We walked out of the room together stupidly. As soon as I grabbed the door, I heard keys jingling. Yeah, my coach caught me with my girlfriend. He didn't have proof that we did anything, but the fact that our school logo was now on the back of her uniform gave that away. He didn't take this lightly and I had my own personal hell week until the following Tuesday. TL. DR ducked a cheerleader during school. Totally worth. I was 69ing with a girl in the park in my young teenage years. Her butthole had beads of sweat running over it and near my little exploring nose. Some people passed by. I think kids. Then I finished and she took Coca-Cola from her bag saying it helps the taste get out my mouth. Thanks Cola. The ducking audacity of my younger self is making me uncomfortable. When I was 14-16, my first girlfriend and I would have sex in the backseat of her mom's van while she was driving. She would sit on my lap and just pull down her pants. Other times when we had a blanket, I'd finger her while she was laying on me in the back. One time, we were caught in her room and she strategically got up after her mom stormed up, giving me time to get dressed. They could only see us under the blankets. Gosh, we were ridiculous. Parks, empty houses, at the foot of my parents' bed when they were sleeping. That's where we had to stay when she spent the night. It gave me a lot of experience, but I still feel stupid for it all. My eventual children have no ducking chance of getting away with anything with the it I've done. One of my closest friends and I got simultaneous handjobs and sequential blowjobs, yay sloppy seconds for me, from a girl in a movie theater when I was 17. The movie? Red Tails. I didn't finish the assignments on time. Yeah. I was 16 and fooling around with a girl in the back of my car after school. I wasn't expecting to have sex with her. It just kinda got to that point. I didn't have any condoms, but we didn't want to raw dog it, so I grabbed the first aid kit and pulled out a latex glove. She spit on it and said good enough. My ex-boyfriend's 17th birthday, his parents left the house for a bit and specified they would be back in an hour. They never left us alone. They specifically left so that we could have sex. As my ex said, his ducking birthday present was sex. We did, all over the house. But it wasn't when he lost his virginity, since we had been having sex for a while before that. Broad daylight in his car pulled on the side of the road. Fields. So many fields on the way home. On the golf course at night after prom. In the back of my mom's truck for New Year's while everyone was popping fireworks. Every time my mom would leave for a second. In a closet while playing hide and seek with his nephews. On his mom's massage table in her office. We were like rabbits. But seriously, he had some great parents to do that. Always had condoms accessible in the house. No sex shaming. Very educational. Very open. Great parents. My first handjob ever when I was almost 17. I was a late bloomer. Happened in a movie theater in Scotland on a school trip. I lived with a guy there and the girl I was with had one of the girls from my school living with her. The guy I lived with got shot down once trying to kiss the girl I was with, and the girl that lived with her hated me already. They sat about 4 seats away instead of right next to us because they didn't like being near us when we were cuddling at the movie. Well, we had her jacket over us and she just started rubbing it and it got all over my shirt. I had to put my hoodie over my shirt to leave the theater when the movie was over. I don't remember much of The Great Gatsby, but damn, I love that movie now. Had a wank in the back of the car while my mum was driving. I had windsurf kit diagonally across the car, so I figured it'd be fine. Looking back, it probably wasn't. I thought I could just watch a bit of porn on my Arcus. No biggie. But once a teenager's up, it's gotta be spanked. Someone offered to pay me so he can eat me out and I agreed, thus starting my daddy-daughter fetish. I jerked off out of a train window in Zimbabwe. Okay, fine, it was 3 months ago. I dropped a 1-stroke 2-ton steel plate, scorching my jeans and falling a hair away from my boot. Funny thing, it was my workplace, but totally not safe for work. Edit. That place was wicked. We also did forklift drag races in the backyard and drift in between the laser machines. I'm still in my teens and this happened like 4 days ago. The worst NSFW thing I've done so far. So why shouldn't I share it with Reddit? So 4 days ago I was at a party and a hammered girl approached me. She is one of the most popular girls in the school, so I was pretty excited. After drinking with her for a while we started kissing. And holy it, I almost drowned. She started sucking my tongue, biting my lips, licking my ears. Couple of awkward stares later we went to a room. Long story short, she started giving me a BJ and said return the favor but be careful because I finished my period today. Being such an obliging virgin, I started fingering her. And apparently I was good at it because she started moaning immediately. Seems like NSFW AskReddit posts actually work. Anyway, it was so slimy in there like watery, but I never inserted my fingers in another V to know, so when I finished my job I took my fingers outside and do what most pornsters do. Gave her my fingers for her to lick her juices, but holy duck, there was blood on the fingers, and before I screamed she started sucking them like there was no tomorrow. Period blood was dripping through her mouth, and when she noticed, she started puking on my fingers, and I started puking too on her, and god oh god. First and most disgusting near 6 experience I ever had in my life. 1/10 would not do again. I still get disgusted when I see that girl in school. Got a blowjob from a girl in the middle of a camping ground. Finished literally seconds before we saw someone with a flashlight coming our way. I've had a really boring, vanilla life apparently. It sounds like bragging, but I feel badly about it now. I treated the girls very poorly, but when I was 18 I was casually dating several girls. I was heading off to the Air Force in a day or two, so 2 of the girls gave their virginity to me on the same day, not together. They didn't even know each other. 1 during the day, 1 in the evening. About 19 at the time. GF is giving me a blowjob. Her mom walks down the hall to see her daughter with a mouthful of D. Turns and walks back. Never says a word. Next day, GF said her mom kept looking like she wanted to say something to her, but never did. Double teamed my HS girlfriend with my twin brother. Was in the process of ducking my girlfriend at my friend's house while he was still asleep at my house. As she's going down on me, his dad comes home for lunch and walks into his son's room because it's a pretty small house, and he hears something. I get up, pull up my pants and stick my naked girlfriend behind the door. He asks what I'm doing there. I tell him I forgot the AV cables for my GameCube at his house. True. And came back to get them before his son, still at my house, woke up. I show him the cable and he doesn't question it at all. Just says okay and grabs his lunch and goes back to work. All the while my 15-year-old girlfriend is a foot from him, naked and separated only by the door, looking right at me and praying we don't get caught. I lost my virginity in a threesome at 16 in 10th grade. Then had another one with a classmate this time, and a girl who graduated the year before in senior year. Also, a boy I started with at 17 broke into a house and we drank all the alcohol and ducked a couple times in there. Also was doing coke at my senior prom. Didn't touch the drug until a week before about, since the flasks I brought in didn't get me drunk. Used to sell alcohol to kids in the middle of school. Stuff like a couple of 4 lockers or maybe a handle of Svedka and stuff. And I was a borderline alcoholic. I'll add more when I think of it. Edit. I'm a girl and both threesomes were myself and another girl and one guy.